My boyfriend said he wanted to marry me for 8 years, but dreaded proposing the entire time. After years of excuses, false hope, and one final gut punch, I finally took off the rose-colored glasses, faced the truth. I, 30 female, have been with my boyfriend, 39 male, for 8 years. From the very beginning, we've always been clear about a few key things. Neither of us wants kids, and we both saw marriage as something we'd want eventually. For me, getting married wasn't about a big fairy tale ceremony or showing off to friends and family. It was about the bond, the commitment, the act of choosing one another officially, publicly, and with intention. For most of our relationship, I've felt like we were on the same page. We moved in together about 4.5 years ago, and living together has mostly been smooth. We have routines, shared responsibilities, inside jokes, and a life that, on the surface, looks stable and loving. But underneath that, for the past few years, I've carried this growing feeling that something is stuck. At the 4-year mark of our relationship, I brought up engagement for the first time. It didn't feel like a huge ask. We had been discussing marriage casually for years. But when I mentioned it in a more serious way, he said it wasn't the right time. His reasoning was that if we got engaged, he'd want us to be married within a year, and things were just too busy with work and life for all that. I was disappointed, sure, but I understood. Planning a wedding takes effort, and if he didn't feel like the timing was right, I respected that. Another year passed. I brought it up again. The answer was the same, not the right time. The pattern was starting to form, but I didn't want to believe it yet. The following year, I got more proactive. I found a beautiful engagement ring on Etsy. It was around $1,500, something tasteful, elegant, and completely within our means. He liked the design, said it was nice. I sent him the link, thinking maybe this would help things along. But instead of feeling closer, he started expressing anxiety about the proposal itself. He said he felt pressure to make it perfect and didn't want to mess it up. I tried to reassure him, told him I didn't need a big, flashy proposal. It could be simple, private, just a moment between us. Still, nothing came of it. Last year, I brought it up yet again, and this time his answer shifted slightly. He said the proposal felt like too much pressure altogether, and maybe we should just skip straight to the wedding. I was confused, but if it meant we were finally taking a step forward, I was ready to run with it. I started researching venues and getting excited. I thought maybe this was it. But then, out of nowhere, he told me it was too much again. He asked me to wait another 6 months. 6 months came and went, and I didn't say anything. He had gotten injured around that time, and I figured I'd give him space to heal and not pile emotional stuff on top of a physical recovery. So I waited a full year. Still nothing. Lately, things have taken a turn that I didn't expect. It's not just that we're still in limbo about marriage. It's that he started voicing more general frustrations about me, my lifestyle, my priorities, my hobbies. He doesn't like that I've gotten into hiking and backpacking. He says he feels like he's not a priority, that he's become an afterthought in my life. He's brought up issues I thought we had resolved years ago. He's even compared our dynamic to his last long-term relationship and how similar problems existed there. I feel blindsided. I've always thought of myself as a good partner. I'm thoughtful, loyal, communicative. I try to support him, emotionally and practically. But now I'm left wondering if I've been failing in ways I didn't even realize. He has incredibly high expectations, sometimes I think impossibly high. And I've started feeling like nothing I do is enough. It's worn on me. I've started individual therapy because I don't want to internalize this narrative that I'm somehow fundamentally lacking. I want to be better, yes, but I also want to be fair to myself. Because 8 years is a long time to be waiting for a commitment that keeps getting pushed further and further out of reach. And it's not just the waiting, it's the mixed signals, the emotional whiplash, the sense that every time I try to step forward, the ground shifts beneath me. Last week, I brought up engagement and marriage again, this time during couples therapy. I have been holding on to this tension for so long, just waiting for the right moment to express how I was really feeling. The pressure, the sadness, the doubt, it had all started building again. And I figured if there was ever a safe space to lay it out, it was in that room with our therapist. I told him that I was starting to fear he was never going to truly commit to me. Not because he doesn't love me, because I do believe he does, but because he seems so unhappy with me lately. And when someone is constantly disappointed or irritated by their partner, even in the small ways, how do you build a future on that? The conversation immediately got tense. As soon as I said I was worried about his willingness to commit, something in him snapped. He got visibly upset, defensive. He said that I was blowing things out of proportion, that I was reading too much into his mood, into our conflicts. But then he dropped something that stuck with me in the worst way. He said he was dreading the proposal. Dreading. Not the idea of marriage itself. No. He made sure to clarify that he was excited to be married to me, even said he'd go to the courthouse with me tomorrow if that's what I wanted. But the proposal? That moment I've waited for, dreamed about, even offered to make as easy and pressure-free as possible? That, apparently, was something he was actively dreading. It felt like a punch to the gut. Over the years, I've tried to remove every obstacle to make this easier for him. I told him I didn't need an elaborate proposal. I told him I didn't need a big ring. I even said he could just ask me on the couch, at home, no pressure, no spotlight, just the two of us. I wasn't asking for fireworks, I just wanted to be asked. I wanted that intentional moment, the recognition of choosing each other. Not something logistical, not something decided because it's time, but a genuine moment of love and commitment. But instead of hearing me, he threw out a new excuse, that I don't like to wear rings. Which, yes, is technically true. I work with my hands and I don't usually wear jewelry. But we've talked about this for years, and I've always said that I'd wear an engagement and wedding ring. I even planned to get a silicone band for work. He knows this. We've discussed it multiple times. So why now? Is that the issue? Even our therapist was trying to steer things in a different direction, suggesting we just focus on the marriage part, since that's the goal, right? That maybe the proposal itself is less important than the union. But I could feel the sting rising in my chest. I know I'm being asked to let go of something important to me, yet again. To compromise, yet again. To accept that the thing I've patiently waited for, year after year, is now being painted as unnecessary. That the person I love can't even bring himself to do the one thing I've consistently said I wanted. And yes, it hurts. It really hurts. I'm at this strange crossroads now, emotionally. He says he's excited to marry me. He says he'd go to the courthouse tomorrow. But where does that leave me? If I agree to that, am I just accepting less than I deserve? Am I ignoring my own needs, again, for the sake of keeping the peace? It's hard because I don't want to force anything. I don't want to drag him to a wedding he didn't initiate or plan. I don't want to be the only one trying. But at the same time, I don't think I'm being unreasonable for wanting a proposal, especially after 8 years of being together. What makes it harder is knowing that any move I make from here, whether it's talking about a courthouse date or revisiting the idea of a wedding, will feel like I'm pushing him into it. It doesn't feel mutual anymore. It feels like I'm managing the logistics of someone else's reluctance, like I'm building something for the two of us while he's dragging his feet the whole way. It's also exhausting to constantly rationalize his behavior. I know he's stubborn. I've accepted that part of him. But I thought we were aligned in the important ways. And now I'm questioning that more than ever. Is he just saying yes to marriage because it's the path of least resistance? Or is he genuinely committed, but emotionally blocked by something he doesn't know how to deal with? At this point, I don't know what to do. Going to the courthouse doesn't feel right. Not because I need a fairy tale wedding, but because it feels like I'd be steamrolling over my own unmet needs just to move things along. But if I wait, again, who knows how long this limbo will last? A year? 2? Forever? The saddest part of all this is how little it would take to make me feel seen. A simple, heartfelt proposal. A moment where he just says, I want to spend my life with you. Will you marry me? It could be in our pajamas, in the kitchen, on a hike. I've said this so many times. It's not about grand gestures. It's about intention. About being chosen, not negotiated with. About a month and a half later, here I am. 2 weeks post-breakup. 2 weeks into something that still feels surreal and raw, but also strangely clarifying. I never thought it would come to this, even after all the doubt, the hesitation, the years of waiting for a proposal that never came. But here I am, on the other side of it. The moment everything shifted was when I called his bluff. After all the back and forths about proposals, after all the excuses and delays, I finally said, okay, let's elope. And you know what? He hesitated. Again. He said he wanted to ask my dad for permission first. Suddenly the man who, for years, refused to propose because of the pressure, the timing, or the perfect moment, now wanted to follow tradition? But fine, I accepted that too. I went to bed thinking maybe, just maybe, this was it. That something was finally going to move forward. The next morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. It didn't feel right. It felt like I had pressured him into something he didn't really want, and that nagging feeling wouldn't go away. I told him how I was feeling, hoping to talk through it as a couple should. I was vulnerable and honest. His response? Either we elope, or you'll have to wait until I say I'm ready to start planning the wedding. And that was it. That moment was the clearest sign I'd gotten in 8 years. It wasn't just about the proposal. It wasn't about the ring or the timeline or even the elopement. It was about control. About how everything always had to be on his terms. If I didn't follow his lead, I was put in limbo, indefinitely. It wasn't just the proposal anymore. It was the years of emotional breadcrumbs. The way I bent over backward to make things easy, to accommodate, to compromise, while he made everything feel like a burden. The criticism, the passive-aggressive digs, the increasing complaints about who I was becoming, the same version of myself I was finally starting to like again. After that conversation, I sat alone and really reflected. I made a pros and cons list, something I hadn't done in years, something I'd been too afraid to do honestly before. And there it was. A brutal wake-up call. The imbalance. The excuses. The way I shrank myself to stay in that relationship. I saw how many red flags I'd ignored. How many times I'd rewritten the narrative to make sense of something that, deep down, didn't feel right. I had been wearing rose-colored glasses for so long, they'd practically fused to my face. And once I took them off, I couldn't unsee what had been there all along. Eventually, he noticed I was pulling back. Distant. He confronted me and asked if I wanted to break up. I paused for a moment, felt everything in my chest tighten and said, yes. Immediately, he turned it around on me, gaslighting me, telling me the problems I listed weren't real or that I was exaggerating, that I was being too emotional, that everything could be fixed if I just gave it more time. He suddenly became the man I'd been waiting for, saying he'd do anything to stay together, even that he would propose. But it was too late. A week later, after I stood firm, he flipped the script and broke up with me instead, making it seem like it was all my fault, like I had given up too soon. And that was the final insult. I packed my things. I didn't fight for the apartment. I didn't fight for the cats. I didn't even fight for the furniture. I left it all behind. Not because it didn't matter, but because I finally realized that I did. I mattered. Around that same time, the universe tossed me a small lifeline, a travel job in a mountain town near some national parks. A place full of trails and silence and stars. A place where I could breathe. I said yes. I packed what I needed, I grieved what I lost, and I went. It's been hard. The kind of hard that comes in waves. Some days I feel free, powerful, even. Other days I lie awake thinking about the what-ifs, the could-have-beens. But overall, I'm healing. And I've come to believe more than ever in the phrase, if he wanted to, he would. Because the truth is, he had 8 years. 8 years to ask. 8 years to show up. 8 years to say, yes, I want you, and I'm ready. But he didn't. He didn't like how I changed over the years. He didn't like that I found joy and passion in hiking, in backpacking, in things that didn't revolve around him. He didn't like when I started standing up for myself. And he made me feel like I was the problem. Like my growth was a threat instead of something to celebrate. But now, I'm on the trail. I'm hiking. I'm carrying my grief and my strength on my back, step by step. I'm discovering the kind of peace that comes not from being chosen by someone else, but from choosing myself. I'm rebuilding my self-worth 1 mile at a time. 1 sunrise at a time. 1 deep breath at a time. This summer, I'm not going to dull my light for anyone. I'm not going to shrink myself to be digestible or agreeable or easy. I'm going to laugh too loud and cry when I need to. I'm going to climb mountains, literal and metaphorical. I'm going to remember who I was before I let someone's doubt chip away at my self-esteem. And maybe one day, someone will see me for all that I am and love me, not in spite of it, but because of it. But until then, I'm loving myself. Fully. Fiercely. Finally. To anyone reading this, going through something similar, feeling lost or torn or not enough, I see you. You are enough. And you deserve someone who doesn't make you beg for the bare minimum. Someone who shows up, wholeheartedly, without conditions or ultimatums. Thank you to everyone who left kind words and honest truths. Your comments helped me find the clarity I needed. I'm walking forward now. Head up, heart healing, and boots laced. Here's to never letting fear hold me back again.